Well, greetings everyone, and welcome to another edition of Movie Goodness here on the KB Radio Network. I am your host, Kevin Reed, and welcome to the very special episode of Movie Goodness. This is the KB Radio Network's 1 year anniversary. Can you believe it? I can't. I can't. I cannot believe that I pulled this off for a year, for better or worse. That we are here. Actually, the date is January the 25th is when we released our first episode here on the KB Radio Network. And when I jumped into this, and I mean jumped into it head first, I had no earthly idea what I was doing. You can make an argument. I still don't know what I'm doing, but I am still here. It is a year later. It's a weird journey, and we're going to go over this year. I'm going to go over how I came to this moment, how I came to this job of podcasting, and after which we're going to review. We do have a review, and we're going to review a film that I just recently saw on Netflix that I had no idea even existed. And my daughter pointed it out to me, and she wanted me to watch it, and she made me watch it pretty much because she told me to watch it, and she was going to quiz me afterwards to make sure that I watched it. So I had to sit down and watch this movie that I didn't want to watch, but I was pleasantly surprised. And we're going to review it. It's called Long Story Short. And once we get into the review, you're going to understand why this is a part of this special episode. But anyways, January the 25th of 2021. I decided that was the day we're going into this. But leading up to that, I would say around December of 2020, maybe November. It was around, because it was around Thanksgiving, of 2020. I was sitting back thinking of what I can do, how, because I had my job. The pandemic was going on. I'm still working, but I felt the need to do something else. Now, my goal in life, my dream since I was a little tight, I always wanted to be a filmmaker. I always wanted to direct, and that's still my dream. But my biggest flaw is writing. Writing is my flaw. I have buku film ideas. I can rattle off some ideas to you in a second, which in my mind are blockbuster hits. But when it comes to sitting down and writing, and it's really the dialogue that really eats me up, and I just cannot write. Now, I used to when I was younger. When I was younger, I used to write, screenplays and, have a little fun, just as a hobby, really. And I buku of them, but I'll get mad and I'll throw them away. And later on in life, I'll be thinking about those screenplays that I wrote, and these little short films. And I'm like, man, I really could have kept those and turned those into something, maybe, because they were good ideas. But now I'm getting to the age where I don't even remember. Like, if I'm out and about and I think of an idea and I want to wait till I get home and sit down and concentrate, I can't remember what I thought about earlier that day. I try to do it on my iPhone, in the notes, and it's not the same. I need to sit down behind a desk and do it. But I love film. I love movies. I love talking about movies. Breaking down movies. I love discussing Easter eggs with people. I love doing all that stuff. And that's goes back to kindergarten. That goes back to kindergarten when Ghostbusters came out. I think I was in kindergarten when Ghostbusters came out. I'm giving away. I'm showing my age here, but whatever. And for some strange reason, that was a thing when I was in school. Because I grew up in the suburbs. So kids around there, they'll talk about movies they saw or something they saw on TV, and I will watch them. And I can interject and give my input and give my opinion. We were movie pundits at the age of 5 and 6 years old, breaking down movies. But I always did love movies from birth. I love watching TV or going to the theater. And yeah, it started with really Ghostbusters, 1984. And breaking that down and discussing the parts in those movies and breaking down other movies that we saw, like Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. And, well, actually, I remember Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade that came out. I think that was, 80, 88, 89, somewhere up in there. And, you remember the TV show Alf about the alien, but it was a puppet? And they had a Saturday morning cartoon, Alf, as well. And they had spoofed Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. And I remember going to school and somebody was asking about Indiana Jones. How was it? What was it about? And all this here. And I had seen it. Nobody else had seen it, but I had seen it. And me, I don't like to just spoil movies. And I told him, I'm like, bro, did you see Elf Saturday? Did you see that cartoon? He like, yeah, I watched that. I said, that's Indiana Jones in the Last Crusade. What happened in there? That's basically what happened in that movie. It's stuff like that. It just little things like that. So that leads me to 2020. And 2020, a lot had took place around that time. I was going through a lot mentally, going through a lot creatively, spiritually, you name it. I was going through it. And, one of my last good friends that I can talk to movies about, he had passed away. And I felt like, man, I really have nobody to talk to. Now there's my wife. And my wife listens. I love that woman. She'll sit down and listen to it. But I know she has no idea what I'm talking about. She has no idea where I'm coming from when I try to break down a movie or break down a certain character in a movie or Marvel movies and stuff like that, or DC, comic book movies. She's getting better at it. She knows now. Now she does ask, and I do talk to her about it. But my good friend who passed away, we was in the comic books, we was in the movies, we was in the horror movies. We was kindred spirits. So when he passed away, I felt like, man, I have nobody to talk to about these films. And we're just off the heels of Avengers, right? Avengers Endgame and everything. And man, I wish I could talk to him about this. And he actually passed away. He passed away, I want to say 2019. Well, it could be 2018. I know it was right before Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 came out. Because that's when I went to the hospital and he was in a medical-induced coma at that time. But I was still talking to him. And I was like, look, bro, you're going to have to get up. You're going to have to get up because we already said we're going to see Guardians of the Galaxy. It comes out in a couple of weeks. So you're going to have to get up. And unfortunately, he didn't. I think a few days after that, he passed away. But it was... it was soul crushing to me, man, because that was my friend. That was my friend, and we talked about it all, man. We speculated all what was going on. So everything after that, with Black Panther, Thor Ragnarok. Now the Hulk was his favorite character, and so he would have loved that too. And then with Infinity War and Endgame, oh man, I just missed out, and it was just a hole left. Whereas I couldn't talk to nobody about it. So that leads me to around the time when I'm thinking, what should I do? Who should I talk to? Should I just start a blog or something? Should I just write things down in a journal or something like that? I don't know. I'm still dealing with the passing of my father, which was a few years before that, a couple of years before that, and I was just struggling. And I always thought, I thought about a podcast. Around that time, that's when I really started getting heavy into podcasts. And that's all I listened to. Stop listening to music on the radio. And all I listened to was podcasts. And I chalked it up to, I'm just getting old. But I enjoyed podcasts. Still do. Still listen. And it hit me. I'm like, man, why don't I start a podcast? Why it can't be that hard. Well, it is, but it's fun. Yeah, I enjoy it. So I decided to take the leap, and I told my wife, I said, I think I'm gonna start a podcast, and I don't know what I'm gonna talk about though. Or how I'm gonna talk about it. I mean, I want to talk about movies, but I don't want to talk about movies like everybody else talks about movies. I want to do it differently, but I don't know how. And she helped me in kind of the direction of how I wanted to discuss it with everybody, and I'm still trying to really figure that out. But I'm getting there. But at first I was like, man, how I'm gonna do this, or what I'm gonna talk about. But I'm really into current events. I love history. I'm a history buff. I love talking about politics as well, and social injustice, and pop culture, everything that's going on. But at the same time, I want to talk about movies. And that's when I came with the bright idea to incorporate both or all in the show, and that's where I spawned from there. And initially I said, I'm going to do maybe just 2 episodes a month. I'm just going to do like 2 shows a month, and we'll discuss a topic, and I'll go about my business. Nothing big, nothing major. I'm just going to dip my toe in the water. I'm not just going to jump out there. So at the beginning of the year, last year, I really committed, got the logo, and, got some research on these podcast hosting sites, and, which one is best suited for me, and how could to record, order the microphone, research what's a good microphone to start off with, good equipment to start off with, all this stuff. I was committed. I'm in. Let's do this. So everything came together. I remember getting that microphone in the mail, opening the box and setting it up, and I just looked at it. I'm like, well, I'm really doing this, because I'm the type of person, I have bright ideas. But as far as seeing them through is a struggle. This here, it wasn't really a struggle. It was kind of a no-brainer. And so I just looked at it, and I was like, man, I'm ready for this. And initially, it was supposed to start around the end of February or beginning of March. That was initially the plan. But I was so amped up, so excited to do it, nervous to do it. And all those different emotions. I said, let's do it. Let's go. Let's run with it. And what really kicked it off was that insurrection on January 6th. And when I saw that happen and saw how much America was just being ripped apart, and I had just watched V for Vendetta. And I'm like, man, this is a microcosm of what's going on. And then it was like, boom, let's go with it. Let's roll. And that was the episode. That was the first episode. And you could tell in that episode I was nervous. I was scared. I was, didn't know what to say, or should I say this, or didn't want to hurt nobody's feelings. All that was going on. And I like, man, you know what? I'm just going to put it out. I recorded that episode, edited that episode, went through so many versions of it. Maybe 10, 12 times before I settled with the final, version that everybody heard, or most of y'all heard, or however it went. And I didn't like it. To be honest with you, I did not like it, but I was all in. And so I said, you know what? You either gonna like it or you're not. And I went in with it, and it was a mixed response. And I wasn't expecting as many people to listen to it when it first came out. I didn't know I was gonna get that many listeners, and I'm happy I did. I'm happy everybody tuned in and listened to it. Even though I did not like that episode. I did not like how it went. But, kudos to everybody who jumped in and said, no, let me try this new one out. And, it was what it was. But, yeah, I got a lot of mixed reviews on that. I got a lot of comments. Some good, some not so good. And it wasn't so much like I sucked at it. It was the subject. And the subject was real testy. And a lot of people did not like me talking about Trump. And I knew at that point, okay, I got something here. I can't just stop. So I just went with it. And it flowed from there. I can honestly say it has been a blessing. It truly has been a blessing. I've enjoyed every time I sat behind this microphone and spoke to all of you. I honestly can say that every time that I recorded an episode, I enjoyed talking. Now, not every episode that I've released was something that I can sit back and say, oh yeah, all of them were great. I'm not gonna be that naive. My main thing is to be open and honest. And to be open and honest, I got to be real, starting with me. And a lot of those episodes, well, not a lot. It was just a couple of those episodes I wish I could go back and do over. I really do. And I probably will one day. I probably will do a redo or reboot of certain episodes that I've done over the past year. Because I'm still honestly, I'm still learning this. I'm not the best at this, but I'm learning. I'm learning as I go. But I love talking movies, and I love talking movies with all of you, along with everything else. Like I said before, I love talking about politics. I love talking about social issues. I love talking about sports. That's another thing that came into the fold. As far as me trying to start off slow, I wanted to just do one show. I was just going to do one show. Just movie goodness. And it wasn't called movie goodness at the time because it was just one show. It was KB Radio Podcast. And I was just going to do one show. And one day I was sitting there, and actually this was my wife's suggestion once again. And I was talking about how what's coming out and all this here. And I got to remember what's coming out this week. And, there's a lot of movies I want to see. She's like, you should do that on your show. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. I should do something like that on the shows. You're like, well, no, just do a separate show. Oh, yeah. And she even came up with the name. Can't Wait Wednesdays. You like, do it on Wednesdays. Can't Wait Wednesdays. I'm like, okay. That's a good idea, babe. You know, so if anything ever happened, if anything ever happened to whereas we have to split up and we divide the funds, she probably gonna get 50% of the KB Radio Network because she came up with the show. I'm saying it here on the air. It doesn't even matter. She came up with it. She did. So that's partially her show. But I said, okay, I'll do that. But once again, I wasn't going to do that every week. It turned into an every week thing. And okay, let's roll with that. I had fun with that because it helps me to remember what's coming out. And I looked at it whereas, well, there's people out there who don't pay attention to what's coming out like I try to do. And maybe I can help them in that. You know, so that all came together like that. And then I'm into sports as well. I love sports, and I definitely love the New Orleans Saints. And I love talking football with my friends and family members, you know, especially when it comes to the Saints. So I decided, you know what? Maybe I should add a show talking about the Saints. Now, I listen to a couple of podcasts. One podcast I do listen to revolved around the Saints that I really enjoyed. Shout out to TJ Jones. He hosts the State of the Saints podcast. He does an excellent job. I love that show. And I wanted to do a show like that, but I didn't want to copy his show because that's his show. You know, I didn't want to do a redo of his show. So once again, I figure out how to do it differently. And, I do it different. I just talk from the heart. I don't try to give any, detailed analysis like, most of the pundits or the professionals would do. But I'm talking as a fan. And that was the goal. And, when the Saints kicked off this past football season, that was the debut. And it got to a late start. It got off to a bumpy start because right at the beginning of the season, we went through the tragedy of the Hurricane Ida that ravaged this area and forced me to push that back a few weeks. So it was the stress on top of that, and I'm trying not to freak out about that because it was, real life stuff was going on around my house. Damage to my house, damage to my family members' property and stuff like that. We didn't have power for weeks. And I'm sitting there worried about a podcast. And I didn't want to be walking around worried about, worrying my family nerve about a podcast. And they're trying to get a roof put on their house. So, or on our house. Or, so it's like, oh my God, I'm going crazy. So that was a crazy time. But, it all came together. And I was able to started later than I wanted to. But I was able to start. And now it's up to 3 shows a week. And all the way up to the end of the football season. So now is a break with that. But we're back to the 2 shows a week format. And as I said before, it's been an exciting journey. Over 100 episodes. Over 100 episodes I've recorded in the past year. And it's good. It's good that I only had a few negative reviews and comments, concerning either the subject matter or the film I reviewed. I got a couple of films I reviewed that I said I enjoyed. I gave a passing grade to. I got response and comments about the movie was trash. And I mean, arguments, straight debates. And I'm like, well, film is subjective. Film is subjective. I don't expect everybody to like every film that I like. And you shouldn't expect me to like every film that you like. That's just normal. That's normal. I'm giving my opinion why I liked it or didn't like it. There's a review I did of a film that I didn't like. And I got hated on for that. And the film that I can tell you what film that was Coming to America, the sequel. And I did not like that movie. And I got blasted for that from a few people. I'm like, okay, I'm sorry. I hated that movie. I hated that movie. Still, you can't convince me otherwise. And I've tried to watch it again. And I got through the first 5 minutes and clicked it. But that's neither here or there. But overall, I'm still learning. I haven't mastered this yet, as you could tell. I haven't mastered it. But I'm not trying to be 100% honest with you. I'm not trying to be perfect. I just want to talk from the heart. I just want to talk as a movie lover, as a sports fan, as, just your boy. I just want to be just your boy sitting here talking. If we're sitting at the table or we're sitting at the bar, we're sitting outside and we're discussing a topic, that's all I want. It's like cooler talk, talking around the water cooler type talk. And that's how I wanted to talk. Or we're sitting in the barbershop or something like that. That's how I wanted to talk. I just wanted to be a cool atmosphere. And I haven't found my voice yet, at least not that I think of. I'm still searching for that to really get in my rhythm. I'm getting better. I'm starting to feel it, like this episode. I'm feeling it this episode. I feel good because I'm just talking. I don't have any notes. I don't have any marks to hit. I'm just talking because this is just an episode to celebrate that we made it a year. It's a blessing. It's truly a blessing. And I've enjoyed it. And I enjoy all of you who support this show, who've been supporting this show from the beginning. And thank you. Thank you. Because if it weren't for you supporting it, I wouldn't be here. I would not be talking. This is not anything because I'm not making money off of this. I'm not making buku dollars. I'm taking lavish trips off of this podcast. Trust me. I can barely go to McDonald's and get a number 3 meal off of this podcast. But I enjoy talking to all of you. You come back and listen because there's been times throughout this past year that I wanted to give up. Certain episodes views weren't going up like I thought they should, or I felt they should, or I felt people were giving up on the show. So I decided, okay, well, maybe it's time. This ain't working out. And then all of a sudden, the numbers start going up a little bit. So, okay, people are listening, And so I keep going. I keep pushing forward. And, y'all drive me to continue to talk. So apparently something I'm saying, something is getting through. So good. Thank you for listening. So yes, and I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. No, despite the fact that I feel like no one listens at times. You come back and you show me that you are listening. It is like the biggest present of all times. I guess it's good that it happens that way. The numbers don't immediately. As soon as the episode drop, I'm expecting the numbers to be boom, boom, boom. But no, they kind of gradually, and then all of a sudden out the blue, the numbers just go boom. I'm like, just when I'm thinking like, well, that one didn't work. And I'm like, oh, it did work. So, I gotta get a feel to what works and what doesn't work. And, because this is for you. This is for all of you, and I want you all to enjoy the shows. I don't just sit here just to get away from the family. You know, I'm sitting here. I really want to talk to you. I want y'all to enjoy it. I want to give content that y'all enjoy. I want to give you insightful things, point out movies that maybe you never heard of or seen. And you're like, oh, man, I want to see that. Can't Wait Wednesdays. I point out movies that's coming out that you didn't even know was coming out. You're like, oh, yeah, that do sound interesting. Let me go check that out. Then I'm doing my job. You know, I'm doing my job when I talk about films that you probably hadn't heard of. And you're like, oh, I might go check that out. I'm doing my job. Case in point, bring me to the film that we're going to review today. Like I said at the start of this show, didn't know anything about this movie. Didn't even know this movie existed. Didn't know what it was about. My daughter blackmailed me into watching it, and I'm better for it. To be honest with you, this is a good film, and like I said, the title is Long Story Short. It is a 2021 Australian romantic comedy written and directed by Josh Lawson about a man who wakes up the morning after his wedding and discovers that every few minutes he jumps ahead in time. I picked this film because he jumps ahead every year on his anniversary. So every few minutes, he does a time jump 1 year, exactly 1 year from where he was. So on his anniversary, he wakes up, and I felt that was fitting, you know, for today's show. But this film is if you're into romantic comedies, this is your type of hype. This would be right up your alley. Josh Lawson, I'm sorry. He directed this. He also has a small role in this. Now, if you don't know who Josh Lawson is, he played Kato in the recent Mortal Kombat film. And he was the best part of that whole movie. Because the movie wasn't great. I enjoyed it, but the movie wasn't great. But he was great in it. I loved his character. And when I found out who he was when I was researching this, you know, after I watched it and did the research of how this movie came to be and who made it and was he, and I found out, oh, I've seen him before. Who is he? Where I seen him before? And I looked him up. And I'm like, oh, he played Kato. Yeah, he's Australian. But this film stars Rafe Sapal and Zeta Newman, and they play a married couple. They get married, and this guy. Well, here's the plot. Instead of me trying to stutter through the synopsis, here it is. When time poor Teddy wakes up the morning after his wedding to discover that every few minutes he jumps forward to the next year of his life, he must use every precious moment wisely to keep from losing the love of his life and to learn to love his life he's losing. Trapped in a cycle of time jumps, transported another year ahead every few minutes, Teddy is faced with a race against time as his life crumbles around him. With the help of his best friend Sam, Teddy tries to piece together where it all went wrong, and as his life flashes before his eyes, Teddy must learn how to live life in the precious moments to win back the woman he loves, even if it's just for a second. To say that this movie, when my daughter was describing it to me after she had watched it, and she was trying to describe it to me and how This guy, they get married, and he's always working. He's never at home, and then he gets married, and the night of their wedding, he goes to sleep. He wakes up. It's a year later, and his wife is pregnant, and he doesn't know what's going on. And then all of a sudden, he's fast forward again, another year later. Now he has a baby, and they're having problems because as he's flash forwarding, life is taking place within that year. And so he's never home. He's always working. He's constantly working. He's too busy to comfort his wife, to be with his wife, and all this here, typical marriage stuff. But the message of this film, where it really brings home, where it really drives the nail through the wood here, is to appreciate every moment that you have with somebody. Don't waste time. Don't waste precious time, because life is short. Because there's a little subplot that goes on with a character that passes away, and he wasn't around. And the reason, not only him, but the real him traveling through time, but he missed it. He missed certain things. He missed his daughter saying her first words or taking her first step. He missed all this. And there are people in real life who are missing life. You know what I'm saying? Because they're always working, constantly busy or doing other things. And while their families is missing them, wanting them around, but they're missing all this stuff. They're missing the games. They're missing the recitals. They're missing the first steps. It's things like that. This movie drives that home with a simple little plot. And I love that about it. I enjoyed it in the main character, Teddy, and the actor, Rafe Spall, did an awesome job. I loved him in this role. He really captured it, man. I mean, for somebody, he was going crazy. It's crazy how this was going on, and how he portrayed the character. Because once again, it could have came off as corny, which it is. I mean, it's a romantic comedy, so it's gonna have some cheese to it. Let's be honest, but it was cute. It was cute. I really enjoyed it, but I loved the message. And I was like, man, I've never seen this done like this. Because it wasn't. It's a little time travel movie, but it's not a special effects heavy movie. It's nothing like that. It's just he blinks and it's like boop. He's a year later. He's a year older, or and how this all came to be, how this happened, it's explained in the movie. It's not just a random thing. And how the ending of the film wraps up is still a nice wrap up. It is kind of, I guess you could say, quote unquote, believable. So I thought it was well written, well acted, well directed. There's some, it's not a perfect film. There's some things in there you sit like dealing, like his relationship with his wife, how it climaxes. It's kind of like, it's kind of cheesy, She comes off as kind of, I don't know, I can't put your finger on it, It just, that wasn't 100% believable with how their relationship, transpired throughout the film. But it's a movie. You got to suspend disbelief in a certain aspect of it. So I didn't fault it. It wasn't like, oh man, that is stupid. There's no way that really happened. But this is a movie about a guy who every 5-10 minutes he transports through time. So this isn't a documentary. So you got to take it for what it is. But other than that, I thought it was a great film. I immediately called my daughter after, and no, I didn't. No, I didn't. She texted. I forgot to call her because I was so into the movie, and then I went to looking it up and everything. She called me, like, "Did you finish the movie?" I was like, "Yeah, I've been finished." But I enjoyed it. I really did. I thanked her for recommending it. So I'm also gonna recommend it to all of you if you haven't seen it. It is currently on Netflix, and the film is called Long Story Short, and I'm giving this film a C+. It's a short watch. It's like 90 minutes long. It's not gonna take you long, but it is really, really good. I give it a high recommendation. But yeah. So the message of today, don't waste time. Don't put things on the back burner. Stop procrastinating. I know it's hard out here, and we feel we got to work, and do everything to provide for our family. But the most precious thing you can give is not money, is not jewelry, is not materialistic things, but the best thing you can give to a loved one is your time. And I'll leave it at that because I might mess it up. But yeah, your time is the most precious commodity. So keep that in mind. So yeah, it's been a year, people. It's been a year, and I've enjoyed this. I really have, and I can't wait to see how we continue to grow, because everything moved so fast throughout this year. I mean, you blinked and it was over. It was like, man, it's been a year and all that. I mean, I recorded over 100 shows. Over 100 shows. That is wild. And I plan to record over 100 more this year. We are having fun. I'm having the time of my life. I really am. This is therapeutic in a sense. This is real therapeutic. I get to unleash on a couple of topics that normally I wouldn't talk about, because it's depressing. But I'll talk about it on here because I could talk about it along with a film that is either I like, on which helps me to get through it and help me understand certain situations. So I gotta keep going in order to keep my sanity. But anywho's, thank everybody. Thank you all for continuing to listen, all those who have been here from the beginning. If you're just joining us, if this is your first time checking us out, I hope today is the start of this journey, that you continue to listen to the KB Radio Network, because everybody, man, you have no idea how much you make this little idiotic fool day go by, man. Just supporting this show. And you can continue to support this show. You can look us up on all the social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, TikTok, Snapchat. We're on all those platforms. Look us up on all the listening platforms, which you already have. But if you're listening on iTunes or Apple Podcasts, don't forget to leave those 5-star ratings and reviews, and on Spotify and wherever else you are listening to the KB Radio Network. Everybody, it's been joy. It's been a privilege. We're still going, and we're going strong. We're not going to stop. We can't stop. We're never going to stop. And as always, I want you all to know that I love you. Continue to love one another. And until we speak again, everybody, be blessed.